The night was cold. The wind moved across the empty alien desert like a whisper from another world. Inside a small tent, a human soldier named David sat alone. He had just returned from a long patrol, tired and bruised. The stars above were sharp and bright, far brighter than any sky on Earth. David was the only soldier left at this outpost. His team had gone ahead for a supply run, and he stayed back to guard the camp. He liked the silence. It helped him think. But tonight, the silence felt strange. Suddenly, he heard something. A soft sound. Not wind, not metal. Footsteps, slow, careful, coming closer to the tent. David froze. He reached for his plasma knife and turned off the small lantern. Darkness swallowed the room. He waited, heart beating louder than the wind. The tent flap moved. Someone entered. His hand gripped the knife tighter. "Who's there?" he asked. A soft voice answered, "Don't be afraid. I'm not here to hurt you." Moonlight fell on the figure. It was a woman, tall, graceful, but clearly not human. Her skin had a light glow, like silver dust in the dark. She wore battle armor, scratched and damaged, and her eyes, sharp and golden, studied David closely. David stood up slowly, confused. "You're from the enemy side." She nodded. "Yes, but I'm not your enemy tonight." David's instincts screamed at him to run, to fight, but he didn't move. Something about her was different. She looked tired, wounded, and something else, scared. "I need shelter. Just for tonight," she said. "I escaped from them." David didn't believe her. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" She looked at him for a moment, then slowly, without a word, began to remove her armor. First the shoulder plates, then the chest guard. She moved slowly, like someone hurt, not someone preparing to attack. David stepped back, knife still ready. "Stop," he said. But she didn't stop. Piece by piece, she let the armor fall to the floor. Underneath, her body was covered in strange marks, glowing patterns, almost like living tattoos. Her breathing was heavy. "I'm not your enemy," she said. Again, "I ran from the war. I don't want to fight anymore." David's hand lowered slightly. He didn't know what to do. He had orders: shoot on sight, never trust them. But she didn't look like a threat now. She looked like someone who had lost everything. "What's your name?" David asked. "Kylara," she said. "Why did you come here? Why now?" Kylara looked around the tent, then sat on the ground, clearly weak. "Because your people will be attacked tomorrow, and I don't want more death." David sat too, not taking his eyes off her. The silence returned, but now it felt heavy, full of questions. "Why help us?" he asked. "Because I've seen what my leaders plan. It's not war, it's destruction. And I've seen what humans are capable of. Not just violence, but mercy." David didn't know what to say. Part of him still didn't trust her, but another part, the part that had seen too many friends die, too many battles with no meaning, that part listened. Outside, the wind grew stronger. Inside, the two sat in silence, one human, one alien, both survivors of a war neither asked for. Then Kylara looked up. "Are you alone in this tent?" she asked again. David nodded. "Yes, why?" She leaned back, eyes closing. "Then maybe, just maybe, we both have a chance to survive." He stared at her. She had risked her life, crossed the line, and now sat unarmed in front of him. Was she telling the truth? Or was this the beginning of a deadly trick? As the night deepened, David didn't sleep. He kept the knife close, his eyes on the alien, warrior who claimed she wanted peace. But deep inside, something told him this was only the beginning. The morning came slowly, with a cold blue sky stretching over the quiet desert. Inside the tent, David was still awake. He had not slept all night. His eyes stayed on the alien woman lying across from him. She had fallen asleep near the heater, her armor stacked beside her like pieces of a broken past. David sat on the edge, of his bed, holding a protein bar, but not eating it. He couldn't stop thinking about the night before. An alien had entered his tent. She had removed her armor, and now? She was sleeping under his roof. What was he supposed to do? Suddenly, Kylara opened her eyes. She looked around quickly, then relaxed. "You didn't kill me," she said softly. David shrugged, still thinking about it. She smiled, but it was a tired smile. "If I wanted to hurt you, I would have done it already." David didn't answer. He passed her the protein bar. "Thank you," she said, taking it. Her hands were shaky, her body still weak. "I need answers," David said, firmly. "Who are you really? Why did you run from your army?" Kylara chewed slowly, then looked up at him. "My name is Kylara Vane. I was a soldier in the Saroni Dominion. But not just any soldier. I was part of the Royal Guard." David's eyes narrowed. "Royal Guard? That's high level. What are you doing in a desert hiding from your own people?" Kylara's face turned serious. "Because I found out the truth. The war isn't about land or peace. My leaders want full destruction. They don't want your people to surrender. They want to erase them." David felt a chill in his chest. "I couldn't be part of that anymore," she continued. "I tried to speak up. I was told to stay quiet. When I refused, they marked me as a traitor." She pulled back the cloth on her arm and showed a glowing mark, a red symbol burned into her skin. It looked painful and alive, pulsing slowly. "This mark means death," she said. "Any Saroni who sees it will try to kill me." David stared at the mark, then at her. "So now you're stuck between two enemies? Them and us?" Kylara nodded. "Yes, that's why I came to you. I needed someone to listen." David looked down. "You came to the wrong person. I'm just a scout. No power, no command. You have something better," she said. "A mind of your own." For a moment, silence filled the tent. Outside, the wind picked up again. David stood and looked through the small screen flap. No sign of his team yet. He turned back to her. "If you're telling the truth," he said, "then you're not safe here. When my team returns, they'll arrest you. Maybe even shoot you on sight." "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I have to leave before they come." David paced the small tent. "Then why are you still here?" Kylara looked at him with honest eyes. "Because I wanted someone to know the truth before I disappear. Someone who might tell the others, someday." David's mind raced. If he helped her escape, it was treason. If he turned her in, she'd be killed. But if she was right, if an attack was really coming, this war was about to become much worse. "Is there more?" he asked. "About the attack?" Kylara nodded. "Your base camp. Tomorrow night. They'll come through the sand tunnels. Hidden, silent. No warning." David froze. "How do you know that?" "I helped plan it. Before I defected, she said I remember everything. Coordinates, entry points, even the hour." David stared at her. Either she was the best liar he had ever met, or the bravest soul he had ever seen. Before he could speak again, a sharp noise hit their ears, a distant hum in the air. David's eyes widened. "That's a drone, a recon scout." Kylara jumped to her feet. "They've found me." David grabbed his gear quickly. "Get your armor, now." She moved fast, putting on only the chest piece and arm guards. David threw open the tent flap and scanned the sky. A small black drone circled far above them, too high to shoot. "We don't have time," David said. "If that drone saw you, your people know you're here." Kylara nodded. "Then I have to go." But David stepped in front of her. "You won't make it far. This desert goes on forever, and if my team returns now, you'll be trapped." Kylara looked into his eyes. "Then, help me." David hesitated. His whole life was military rules, orders, loyalty. But something inside him, something deeper, whispered a different order. Now help her. Tell the truth. Stop the war. He took a deep breath. I know, a way out. There's a side tunnel near the cliff ridge. We'll leave before sunset. Kylara gave a small nod, her eyes soft. Thank you, David. As they packed quickly, David knew his life had just changed forever, and this story was only just beginning. The desert sun was low in the sky. Shadows grew longer outside the tent. David and Kylara had packed their things quickly, preparing to leave before anyone returned. Every second felt heavy, like time was warning them to run faster. David looked at the sky again. The scout drone had vanished, but that didn't mean they were safe. We need to leave now, he said, tightening his belt. Kylara nodded. She had her chest armor on, but her face was still uncovered. Her glowing marks pulsed softly as the heat increased. Suddenly, the sound of engine rumble. A transport vehicle was approaching. David's heart skipped. My team. They weren't supposed to return for another day. He grabbed Kylara's hand. Hide behind the supply crates. Don't move. Don't speak. Kylara didn't argue. She slid behind the crates near the back of the tent, crouched low, and stayed perfectly still. Within seconds, the tent flap opened, and Commander Reeves stepped in. Tall, strong, and always serious, Reeves was the kind of man who followed rules, like they were law. David, Reeves said in his deep voice, we came back early. HQ sent a new warning. Looks like something big is coming. David forced a calm smile. Good to see you, sir. I thought I had another day alone. Reeves looked around. Everything quiet. Yes, sir. Nothing to report. But David's heart pounded. He could feel Kylara's presence just behind him. One wrong move, and Reeves would find her. And David knew exactly what would happen if he did. Reeves moved through the tent slowly, scanning everything with sharp eyes. He stopped, near the crates. David held his breath. Reeves bent down to check. A supply bag just inches from where Kylara was hiding. Then he stood up. Strange, he said. I feel like someone else is here. David tried to laugh. Just me and the sandstorms. Reeves didn't laugh. He stepped closer to David. You're sweating. Nervous. It's hot, David said. Desert. Sun. Reeves narrowed his eyes. Or maybe you're hiding something. David met his gaze. With all respect, sir, I've been here alone. If there's danger, it hasn't come through this tent. Reeves nodded slowly. We'll sweep the area tonight. Drones, scanners, everything. If something's hiding, we'll find it. David knew he had no time left. Reeves turned to leave, then stopped at the door. Oh, and David, he said, next time someone enters your tent at midnight, ask them what color the stars are. David froze. What? But Reeves didn't repeat himself. He just walked out. Kylara crawled out slowly once the engine sounds faded again. Her face was pale. He knows, she whispered. David nodded. Maybe not everything, but something. Kylara looked down. We have to leave now, David agreed. Follow me. They moved quickly through the rocks behind the tent, away from the camp lights. The sun was almost gone now, the sky turning red. As they reached the back hills, Kylara stopped. She placed her hand on a rock. It glowed under her touch. What is that? David asked. A signal stone. Very old. It hides sound. They won't hear us here. David stared, even in hiding. Had knowledge he couldn't explain. Your commander, she said. There's something wrong with him. David frowned. What do you mean? When he spoke, his voice changed slightly. I've heard that before. From deep shifters, David. Blinked. Kylara nodded. Our kind created them as spies. They take human form but can't hold it perfectly. One mistake, and they break. David remembered Reeves's words, asked them what color the stars are. It wasn't just a strange warning. It was a code phrase one soldiers used to identify each other in secret, and David had missed it. If he's a David whispered, he already knows about you. Maybe even about me. Kylara looked at the dark sky. Then we are running out of time. David clenched his fists. Everything was falling apart. His commander might not be human. His own army might be compromised. And the only person he trusted now was a former enemy. He looked at Kylara. There's a cave system near the ridge. We can hide there. Kylara nodded. And if your commander follows. David looked back toward the tent, now far behind. Them? Then we stop running and fight. The wind began to rise. David and Kylara moved quickly across the rocky desert. The sky above was turning dark, heavy with thick clouds. The peaceful evening was gone. Now, it felt like something terrible was coming. In the distance, lightning flashed. The storm was building fast. David looked back over his shoulder. No sign of soldiers or drones yet. But that didn't mean we're safe. How far is the cave? Kylara asked, keeping pace beside him. About half a mile, David replied. We'll be there in 10 minutes if we hurry. Kylara's breathing was heavy, but she didn't slow down. Her armor was weighing her down, and her glowing marks were flickering faster now. David could tell something was wrong. Are you okay? He asked. She shook her head. The air, the storm, it affects my energy. If the winds grow stronger, my body will weaken. David clenched his teeth. The desert storms on this planet were strange, full of static, strange particles, and magnetic fields. Humans could survive them with gear, but Kylara's alien biology was reacting badly. Suddenly, a loud boom cracked in the sky. A wave of sand blasted toward them. Down, David shouted. They both dropped to the ground as the storm hit. Sand whipped through the air like knives, cutting at their faces and clothes. David pulled his scarf up and shielded Kylara with his body. We can't stop here, he shouted over the wind. We're too exposed. Kylara nodded weakly. Her glowing marks were dim now, and her skin looked pale. David pulled her to her feet and helped her walk. Step by step, they pushed through the storm. David's mind raced with thoughts. Was Reeves following? Were drones above them? Would they reach the cave in time? Finally, through the swirling sand, a large black crack in the rock appeared. There, David shouted. They ran toward it and squeezed into the narrow opening. The wind screamed behind them, but couldn't follow inside. They were in. Inside the cave, it was silent. The walls were smooth, glowing faintly with crystal veins that pulsed softly in the dark. David helped Kylara sit down against the wall. She closed her eyes. This place, it's old. David looked around. You know it. Kylara nodded slowly. My people built caves like this long ago. Before the war. This one still remembers us. David frowned. What do you mean? Kylara placed her hand on the cave floor. A soft blue light spread out from her palm and into the walls. The crystals responded, glowing brighter, humming gently. This cave is alive, she whispered. It listens. David stepped back, surprised. The walls began to glow with moving lights, shapes, patterns, like ancient writing. This is amazing, he said. Kylara smiled faintly. Not all of our kind wanted war. Some built places like this, safe places. This cave will protect us for now. David sat beside her. The storm roared outside, but in here, it was calm. He handed her a water pouch. She drank slowly, then looked at him with tired eyes. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For bringing danger to you. For dragging you into this. David shook his head. You didn't drag me. I chose this. You warned me about the attack. You told me the truth. Kylara looked down. There's more. Something I haven't said yet. David stayed quiet, waiting. My people. They created something. A weapon. Not just to destroy humans, but to control them. David's eyes widened. Control. She nodded. It's a virus. It doesn't kill. It changes the brain. Makes soldiers obey. Makes leaders forget. They plan to release it during the attack. David's stomach turned. That's why Reeves is acting strange. Kylara nodded. He's already infected. David stood up, pacing. We have to stop this. We have to warn someone. The other bases, Earth. They won't believe you, Kylara said. Not without proof. David looked at the glowing cave walls. Then we get proof. This cave, it stores data, right? Kylara nodded. Yes, maybe. Then we use it. We find the truth and send it out. Kylara stood too, slowly. It will take time. I need to connect with the crystal core. It may hurt. David stepped beside her. I'll protect you. Just tell me what to do. Kylara smiled. Stay close. If I lose control, pull me back. She stepped deeper into the cave and placed both hands on a glowing column of crystal. Her marks lit up bright blue, and the cave responded, walls glowing. Humming louder, symbols flashing. Kylara cried out. Her body shook. Light exploded from the crystals. David rushed forward and grabbed her. Stay with me, Kylara. The cave filled with strange sounds, voices from the past, data streams, images of the war. David saw it all. Weapons being built, viruses tested, soldiers turned into puppets. The truth was worse than he imagined. Finally, the lights dimmed. Kylara fell into David's arms, breathing hard but alive. It's done, she whispered. The truth is here. David looked at the cave walls. A glowing crystal disk now floated before them, the data recorded and ready. Now, he said, gripping the disk tightly, we tell the world. The storm outside had passed, leaving only silence behind. Inside the glowing cave, David watched as Kylara lay resting on the stone floor. Her breathing was slow, but steady. The light from her glowing marks had dimmed, but her body looked more peaceful now. David held the crystal disk in his hand. It felt warm, alive, almost, and filled with the dark truth they had just uncovered. This disk could expose the virus, the brain control project, and everything Kylara had risked her life to warn him about. He looked down at her. For the first time, she seemed fragile, not like a soldier, not like an alien warrior, just a person. Suddenly, her eyes opened. David leaned closer. You okay? She nodded slowly. Yes, just tired. The cave took energy from me to share. The memories. But it's worth it. David sat beside her. That disk. It's more than I expected. It shows everything. How your leaders plan to control humans, and maybe even your own people. Kylara looked away, shame on her face. That's why I ran. That's why I broke the rules. I couldn't let this continue. David stared at her. There's something else, isn't there? Something you haven't told me yet. Kylara took a deep breath. Yes, there is. She slowly stood up, walking toward the center of the cave. Her armor clicked as she moved. The chest plate was cracked, the surface scarred from battles. She touched it gently. This armor is not just mine. It belongs to my family's line, she said softly. Because I am not just a soldier, David. She turned to face him. Her glowing eyes were clear now. I am the daughter of the High Queen of Shiren. David's mouth opened in shock. Your royalty. Kylara nodded. Yes, Kylara Vane, first daughter of the throne. Trained as a warrior, raised in the palace. Expected to lead the war someday. David stared at her, trying to process. Then why? Why leave that behind? Because I saw what power does to people, she said. My mother changed. My council turned dark. They believed humans were a virus not to be fought, but erased. She touched the mark on her arm again, the red glowing symbol of exile. I spoke against them. I said the war must end. I asked them to talk with your leaders. They called me weak, a traitor. I was removed from the royal guard and sentenced to silence, but I escaped. David walked toward her, his voice soft. You gave up your whole life. Kylara looked at him, for truth and for hope. They stood quietly for a moment. Then David said, You know? When you entered my tent that night, I thought you were a spy, or a killer. She smiled. I thought you'd shoot me. They both laughed softly. It felt strange to laugh, but good. David stepped closer. You've seen the worst of your people. I've seen the worst of mine. But here we are, in the middle of nowhere, trusting each other. Kylara nodded. Strange, isn't it? He looked at the disk in his hand again. If we send this to Earth Command, it might stop the war, but it might also start something worse, Kylara agreed. That's why we must choose wisely. We can't just send it and hope for the best. We need someone who will listen and believe. David thought for a moment. There's someone. Commander Nyla, at Station Red. She doesn't follow orders blindly. She listens. Then we go to her, Kylara said. David looked at her. Are you ready to face more danger? If they catch us, you'll be executed, and I'll be marked a traitor. Kylara stepped closer. I've already been marked. I'd rather die telling the truth than live wearing a lie. David nodded. Then we do this together. They packed what they could, the disk, water, food, and a small scanner device to hide their tracks. As they left the cave, the night sky opened above them. Stars sparkled across the blackness. David paused and looked up. Lara followed his gaze. Do you know what color the stars are? David asked with a smile. She smiled back. Every color you can imagine. They walked into the desert night, side by side, a human and an alien princess, both hunted, both feared, but both brave enough to fight for truth. And somewhere, in the darkness behind them, the cave pulsed softly. Remembering the moment, two enemies chose to walk the same path. The night was quiet, but heavy with tension. David and Kylara moved carefully through the dark desert, the crystal disk safely packed in David's bag. Their path led toward a hidden communication outpost where they could send the evidence to. Commander Nalet, every step felt like a risk. They both knew enemies could be watching. David's thoughts raced. He had given everything to protect Kylara, but now the hardest test was coming. As they neared the outpost, the soft glow of lights appeared in the distance. They slowed down, hiding behind rocks to watch. Suddenly, a figure appeared, tall and familiar. It was Commander Reeves. David's heart stopped. Reeves looked different now. His eyes flickered with a strange light. He spoke calmly, but his voice was cold and without warmth. David, Reeves said, stepping closer. You are far from the camp, and you brought company. David stepped forward, standing tall. Kylara is not my enemy. Reeves laughed. A dry, cruel sound. Not your enemy. She's a traitor, a royal rebel, and you're a traitor too. David shook his head. No, I'm trying to stop a war that will destroy both our people. Reeves' eyes flashed. You don't understand what you're up against. Kylara stepped between them, her glowing marks bright now. We understand more than you think, Reeves snarled. I've been infected by the virus. It gives me power, control, and I will stop anyone who stands in my way. David's mind raced. Reeves was no longer just a man. The virus had changed him, but he saw fear behind the cold mask. Reeves, David said quietly, you're not yourself. The virus controls you. You can fight it. Reeves hesitated. For a moment, the light in his eyes dimmed, but then he shook his head, voice harsh. Too late. He raised his weapon. Kylara moved fast. She grabbed David's arm. Run. They darted between the rocks as Reeves fired. Bullets sparked against stone. David's heart pounded. They reached the outpost, just as alarms began to sound. Inside, Commander Nyla waited, her eyes sharp and calm. David, she said, we got your message. The data is shocking. David handed her the disk. We have proof. The virus, the plan, Reeves. He's infected. Nyla nodded. This changes everything, Kylara spoke. We need to stop the attack and find a cure for the virus. Nyla looked at David. Will you lead this mission? David looked at Kylara, then at Nyla. His mind was made. Yes, he said, but I need Kylara's help. We fight together, Nyla agreed. Then prepare. The final battle is coming. Later, David and Kylara sat alone, watching the stars. The weight of choices and dangers pressed on them. Kylara broke the silence. You risked everything for me. David smiled. You gave me a reason. She touched his hand. Whatever happens, I'm glad you're with me. David looked at the sky. The stars were bright and endless. He knew the final choice was near. Fight for peace or lose everything. The sun rose slowly over the desert. David and Kylara stood on the ridge of a rocky hill, looking down at the battlefield below. Armies from both sides had gathered human soldiers and Saroni warriors, ready to fight the war that could destroy their worlds. David held Kylara's hand tightly. The crystal disk with all their proof was safe in his bag. But the real battle was about to begin. This is it, Kylara said softly. If we don't stop this, millions will die. David nodded. We have to show them the truth. Suddenly, loud engines roared. Enemy drones flew low, shooting red lasers at the rebel base where David and Kylara had hidden before. Explosions lit the sky. David raised his voice. We have to get to the communication tower. We must send the message to all forces. Kylara's eyes glowed bright blue. I will protect you. They ran down the hill, dodging laser fire. David fired back with his rifle, covering Kylara as she used her alien powers to create a shield of energy. The soldiers on both sides hesitated, watching the strange human and alien fighting together. Some lowered their weapons, confused at the tower. David connected the crystal disk to the main console. The screen lit up with images of the virus, the attack plans, and the betrayal of Commander Reeves. David spoke into the microphone, his voice steady and strong. This war must end. The truth is here. We are all victims. We must unite or perish. The message spread across the battlefield like wildfire. Suddenly, Reeves appeared at the tower entrance, his eyes glowing red. You will not stop me, he growled, raising his weapon. David stepped forward. Reeves, it's not too late. Fight the virus inside you. Reeves laughed darkly. I am power now. They fought fiercely. Kylara joined, using her energy to block Reeves' attacks. In the heat of the battle, David saw an opening. He fired a precise shot at the device on Reeves' arm, controlling the virus. The device exploded, and Reeves screamed, collapsing too. The ground. His eyes cleared, and he whispered, Thank you. The armies watched in silence. Slowly, soldiers on both sides lowered their weapons. David and Kylara stood together, tired but victorious. This is a new beginning, said David smiled. A future where two worlds are one. The sun shone brighter, lighting the path toward peace.